Bryan Cranston, Jason Segel.
How are you, man?
Good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
It's fun to talk to you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, so I saw Trumbo, and I loved it very much.
Thank you.
And so what made you want to do that movie? What drew you to the part?
God, you know, for us, whenever we read something that really resonates, that really leaves an impression on you, it's the same as when you read a great novel that you can't wait to get back to chapter by chapter. And I read this story about Dalton Trumbo and the Hollywood 10 blacklisted screenwriters during the 40s and 50s and 60s. And it was a dark, dark period, and not just Hollywood history, but American history.
Right.
And the story was just so big and so great that the jeopardy of losing your First Amendment rights under the pressure and penalty of imprisonment for no crime committed. And these men went to prison for a year. And it was just so compelling to me that I had to do it. And John McNamara's script then backed up that story with such nuance and such beautiful language and crafting that it was terrific. And then I looked at the character itself, and Dalton Trumbo was such a flamboyant, dramatic man, you know.
It was a meaty part. And they didn't do anything illegal.
No.
It was just their beliefs that got them locked up.
You know, these were men and women who were very creative, the writers, the storytellers of the time, and they can craft a beautiful story and a joke. And I think when times are tough, human beings need to laugh. They need to release some of that pressure. Right. So that's why, you know, Trumbo is a serious subject, but we handle it in a very entertaining way.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Dalton Trumbo is a great writer. He wrote Roman Holiday, he wrote Spartacus.
His 2 Oscars he won under different names.
Yeah.
Roman Holiday and The Brave One. He was not allowed to put his name on those.
Yeah, I had the same thing with Braveheart.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had to write that under a different
You did.
totally different name.
I know.
Yeah.
But there's a connection.
And had you ever worked with Jay Roach before?
I had not. Doing Trumbo was the first time. I since have worked with Jay on a project. I did a play in New York called All the Way about Lyndon Johnson's first year in office.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right.
And
I heard that was fantastic. I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for showing up.
I know.
I know you were in New York often and you still didn't come. And
Yeah.
the ticket was waiting for you.
I know.
You know, it's
I
at
know.
Segel right there. And it's like,
Yeah.
all you had to do was walk up to the box office, but no.
You know what? A lot of people want me to come to their shows.
But you don't go.
You know.
It's bad when you go to a show and it's terrible.
Oh, it's so
Right?
uncomfortable.
You sit there going, oh my God, what are we going to say?
Yeah.
Let's not go backstage.
You
We
kn-
have
yeah.
to go backstage.
You know what you say? You did it again.
You did it again. Yeah. Or, looks like you were having fun.
You were having
You're
fun.
having fun.
That's the worst.
Or else just one word. Wow. Wow.
The worst is a press junket for a movie that you're not proud of. Ooh. And all you can talk about is how fun it was making it. And I have a hunch people must have caught on by now,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, oh, we had a ball.
Well, but tell me about the movie. Oh, it was so much
It was
fun to
fun.
me.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
Okay, you can make me look like a real dick if you print this.
No, I'm not going to, but if you can, speak into the mic.
Yes, you're performing muscular movements with your hand as you're jerking off, but what you're really doing, I think, is you're running a movie in your head. Mm-hmm. You're having a fantasy relationship with somebody who is not real, strictly to stimulate a neurological response. So look, as the internet grows in the next 10, 15 years, and virtual reality pornography becomes a reality, we're gonna have to develop some real machinery inside our guts to turn off pure unalloyed pleasure, or I don't know about you, I'm gonna have to leave the planet.
Why?
Because the technology is just gonna get better and better, and it's gonna get easier and easier and more convenient and more pleasurable to sit alone.
Let's talk about the end of the tour.
Sure.
How did that come to you? How did you first become aware of that?
Well, I got really lucky. You know, you may have had a similar experience coming from comedy at the beginning of your career, but I'm pretty self-aware. I know that when the David Foster Wallace script comes across someone's desk, they don't think, get Jason Segel on the phone, you know? And this script arrived for me from James Ponsoldt, our director, who said, I think that you can do this. He said, every time I've seen you do comedy, there's something sad behind your eyes, which is a really uncomfortable thing to hear from a stranger. Like, you think you hide that pretty well. And
not just comedy. I see it right now.
yeah, oh no.
Yeah, there's deep,
Totally.
deep wounds.
As soon as they say cut,
Yeah.
tears. And so I read the script, and it's sort of like you said, you're looking for things as an artist that are reflective of how you feel at the moment. And there was a line in that script where David Foster Wallace said, I have to face the reality that I'm 34 years old, alone in a room with a piece of paper. And I thought, that's exactly how I feel right now. In our careers where you're sort of freelance, every job, when it ends, you're unemployed again.
Right.
I just thought, yeah, I have something to say about that. And honestly, I feel really lucky because it's a rare thing in this industry to have somebody want you to do something they haven't seen you do before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And for him to say, I know that this is a big adjustment in perception, but you're the guy I want for this. I mean, he changed my life and my self-opinion.
So he felt that. Did you feel that this was right for you when you first read this? Did it resonate within you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other moment that I had was, so I think as an actor, you spend a lot of time feeling somewhat maybe like resentful that you're not getting the opportunities that you want, and you say like, oh, if only I was doing that kind of material. And then when the opportunity arrives, I at least was faced with this scary realization of, oh, I might find out I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If I try this, I might find out I'm not as good as I think I am.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to walk into being scared.
Yeah.
Because you start doing stuff that you know how to do and you don't feel scared anymore. And being scared is a really good motivator, I think.
I find it the same thing. I find that if I'm a little apprehensive or nervous or fearful about something, it's usually a good indicator.
Yeah, because you're gonna walk in someplace and find out your limits. I think that's really exciting. And you know, by the end of that movie, to feel like I didn't butt up against the wall of what I'm capable of, it really it made me feel capable.
Yeah.
It made me feel really good.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film, by
Thanks.
the way, and it's a sweet, revealing expose about this man who there was loneliness to him. There was a sense of I don't want to say desperation, but almost like a lost boy at times. I felt so empathetic toward him, you know?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a very human thing. You may be less neurotic than I am, or maybe we're on the same page.
By far.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, that's what I gathered. But it deals with this interesting moment of what happens when everybody loves what you do. You get everything that you have dreamed of, and you realize that you still feel the same. That it didn't affect the thing that you always thought that it would affect. I really related to that idea.
So with David, it was that he wrote this beautiful book that was worldly renowned and respected.
1,000+
admired.
pages.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, it's
book.
huge.
Tremendous to say. But he felt that the attention that came along with writing something that was your expression of artistic, creativity, that the attention that came to him was uncomfortable. That he didn't want that.
I think so. I think it's this other thing of you get something so massive out of you. You know, it's like 7 years of writing,
Right.
1,000+ pages. You produce it and you can hold it and you put it out into the world, and it didn't affect the thing in him that he was hoping it would affect.
Which was what?
Maybe a feeling of everything's okay. I can relax now.
I got that out.
I got it out.
Yeah.
Now maybe I'll sit. And you do a movie, and the question you're asked on the press junket is, "What's next?"
Yeah.
So if you write a 1,000+ page book that is everything, then the question is, "What's next?" That's pretty terrifying.
It's really interesting how the public focuses on that. Everybody does. They'll ask a couple who just had a baby, "You gonna have another one?" It's like,
yeah,
do you see how young this one is?
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting.
What do you think that is?
I don't know.
Short attention span?
I don't know. As if they are so forward in their thinking, like what's the future hold, as opposed to being in the moment. You know, being there and recognizing the greatness of what you're experiencing with a new child.
Right.
And
you know what maybe it is that you as the experiencer, it's very visceral, you're feeling all the things, and other people are trying to use empathy, but they don't feel what you feel. So they're kind of like, they're engaged.
I
and
like that though. I want to be an experiencer.
Yeah, right? Yeah, totally.
The experiencer,
I
the
think
decider.
It's tricky though. I danced down Hollywood Boulevard with the Muppets.
Yeah, you did.
That theoretically should do it. You know? Yeah, that ought to do it. It's like the cartoonishly best moment of your life.
Yeah.
And it lasted a couple weeks, like you feel great, and then you're thinking like, all right, what's next? What's my next project?
But it should be that way. I think, you know, these moments are ephemeral, and they shouldn't be. You shouldn't try to hold on to it or try to recreate it. I remember Woody Allen in doing Annie Hall with Diane Keaton, and they have this spontaneous moment with the lobster, and it gets out, and it's like, oh my God, and it creates this wonderful expression and this wonderful moment in their relationship. And then, in order to try to recapture that, he tries to set that up with a new date, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why don't you just get the?" And that's such a great reminder. Like, we have to be in the moment and experience this, and then be smart enough and to let it go.
Right.
To let it just find its way, and then look for other experiences that we can enjoy.
Yeah. That's some advanced level Buddha type stuff, though.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I hope I get there.
Really? You don't
Yeah.
think? Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm much better than I was maybe 10 years ago.
When you're doing your show, which I was able to guest star on.
Yes, we were on How I Met Your Mother together.
Yes.
And now here we are. Yeah. This is what How I Met Your Mother was kind of like.
It was kind of like this, two chairs talking. Were you able to then say, okay, I truly enjoy this moment, these people, we're inexorably tied, and that's great, and now it's over, time to move on. Were you able to leave it and move on and say, okay, what's next for me?
It's a very interesting question. I got How I Met Your Mother when I was 24 or 25 years old. So these are like pretty formative years. And I think that you spend your 20s trying to get somewhere. Like I'm on the road to there. And then I think in my early 30s, especially as the show was coming to an end, David Foster Wallace deals with this a bit in Infinite Jest and in the movie, you have this realization that there is no there.
Right.
This imaginary there, it just keeps moving equidistant away from you.
Yeah.
So what I realized at some point, maybe 3-4 years ago, was, I need to find a model that is sustainable, where I'm not constantly feeling like I haven't arrived yet, or I'm in a state of waiting for this thing to happen. Like, you're in it right now, and it's like you said, being present for each moment, I think.
It is, and it's not with an anticipation of any result.
Right.
You can have an idea of where you want to go or experiences you'd like to have. You make a decision to get on a roller coaster.
Right.
And you think this roller coaster is going to bring thrills and excitement, and it is just a ride.
Right.
And then you go through it, but you're going to end up at the station again, and you have to get off.
Right.
And I think that's life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Life is a roller coaster. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When we both playing real life writers.
Yeah.
Dalton Trumbo and David Foster Wallace. Was there any anticipation, like, God, what if in my research, if I start reading about this guy, what if I don't like his work? Am I going to stand in judgment of that?
That's a really, really good question. Okay, so I hadn't read Infinite Jest, the massive tome.
Right.
I had read sort of his short form stuff. A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again is a great one. Consider the Lobster. But when I dug into Infinite Jest, I thought to myself, if I don't like this, I'm in real trouble. And it's a hard read. There are 20-page endnotes on tennis when you want to throw the book against the wall. But the funny
Wow.
thing is, by the time you finish it, you feel really capable and you feel smart. And I think that was one of his goals, is to remind you that you're capable. It was right at the age of like television entertainment becoming really easy to binge watch. And I think he was a television addict, and he was aware of that. I think that I walked away with this sense of, oh, this is like when I read Catcher in the Rye in high school. This is a guy who has a vocabulary to express this miasma that I feel. You know, when you're in high school and you read Catcher in the Rye, what you're capable of is like, get out of my room. And then you read this book and you're like, ah, that's it. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And when I read Infinite Jest, I felt the same way. This feeling of confusion of why I don't feel satisfied is expressed so beautifully in that book. How about you?
Same, you know, going into Dalton's vault of screenplays and pamphlets. He wrote the quintessential anti-war novel, Johnny Got His Gun, in the late 30s, 38 or 39, and a pacifist by nature. However, he was so combative that when this House Un-American Activities Committee came to him, he was ready for that fight. But he was as many very astute, adroit writers, he was eager to have a fully realized career, just like an actor doesn't want to do one role for the rest of his life. When you want to do a variety of things. He wrote some very heroic movies like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, very pro America and that sort of thing. And then he writes a beautiful romantic tale in Roman Holiday. He writes, during the Blacklist, he wrote a thing called Gun Crazy under a different name, which actually is kind of a cult story, which was, you know, the gun culture and what that means, the sense of power with that. So there's a lot of symbolism in it.
Yeah.
He was really all over the map. So it was a great experience for me just not only to revisit those movies, but you know, read he wrote everything, pamphlets and speeches and you know, all kinds of little documents and just an amazing, prolific guy.
It's funny. It's breezy and romantic. Who wrote it?
You did, old boy. You stick your name on my labor, hand it into your studio, and we're in business.
Look, it is just some luck that I wasn't subpoenaed and blacklisted myself. The hearings are going to start up again soon. I'm going to get cold and canned.
Well, then quick, lad. Let's sell this little beauty and split the take 50-50.
Ridiculous. I'll take 10%.
You'll take 20. No, 30. And that's my final offer.
You're the worst businessman ever. I hate the title.
Me too.
There are a lot of different personality types of an artist, right? But underneath there is a common thread, which is especially true for a writer, that you think what you have to express is worth people giving their undivided attention to.
That's true.
And so if you're writing Infinite Jest over 7 years or something, you're laboring alone every night under this belief that what you're doing is going to make sense, is that people are going to care about it, that they're going to want to sit down for 3 months and read a 1,000+ page novel.
Yeah.
That's a personality type. And the people who are wrong, it's a delusion. You know, we know those people too.
Now, I was curious about, you know, his emotional state when you went into that, and of course the suicide. Do you think that that if Infinite Jest was not a success, that it would have propelled him into that kind of frame of mind
Sooner?
Or was he destined for that?
Well, I think that there is something that I'm probably not the person to speak to, but I think that there is something chemical that is separate from any success or failure. You know, that is it's a real serious thing, and can sort of be, be dismissed too easily, so not taken serious that it's a real thing. You know, people say, you know, they want you to feel your way out of it. He writes really beautifully about depression. He talks about somebody jumping out of a burning building, and he says, what could be so terrifying that jumping out of a burning building feels like an escape from it? And I think that that's true of suicide and depression. Like you cannot take for granted that the thing you're trying to escape is worse than death for those people. He has another thing in Infinite Jest where a woman goes into the hospital after a failed suicide attempt, and the doctor says, "Why did you want to hurt yourself?" And she laughs at him and says, "You'll never be able to help me if you think I was trying to hurt myself. I was trying to stop the pain." So that's a relationship to emotion that you know, it's scary.
I know.
I think that there's a great speech called "This is Water" that he gave to the Kenyan commencement class of 2005, where you feel him dealing with how do I confront these issues. And he proposes that it's about where we place our value, that if you take it off of success or money or power and focus on being a part of this life and this community, it's a lot like what you were saying about just being present and in it, that's the only solution.
Yeah.
And I think that's true, but he was a really complicated guy, really sad.
Was he working on something else at the time of his death?
Yeah, he left a partially finished novel. But he wrote a few things after that, and I mean, he's just a brilliant, sensitive human writer. So making these movies, you always discover new things. Is there anything you took away from this movie in particular?
Many things, of course. I think that there was something that I've found out about my research into the blacklist and at the time, and it was very disappointing to me. I found out that in our community, our unions, the Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, all turned against their membership. Anybody who is suspected of being a communist or knowing a communist was shut out. There were no nominations for anybody who was suspected of being a communist or definitely on the blacklist or even the gray list. And the unions did not support their members. Their main responsibility was to support their membership, and they didn't. They turned against them. And that was incredibly disappointing. But it was a frightening period. Lee Grant, the beautiful actress and director, she was blacklisted from the time she was 24 years old to 36 years old, the prime of her acting life.
Yeah.
And the reason she was blacklisted was that a friend of hers, who was a blacklisted writer, had died, and she gave a eulogy at his funeral and mentioned how the blacklist put so much pressure and anxiety on him and perhaps exacerbated or hastened his death. And that was it. Wow. From that point on, she was on the blacklist. So the fear permeated, not just the community. And that's what was so sad about it, and realizing that the destructive nature of fear-mongering is what really popped out to me.
Right.
And how dangerous words can truly be. The irony is that that's how Dalton Trumbo and the other writers got out from under that, is by using their words and undercutting the structure of the blacklist. Yeah. Doing your research for David, was there anything that really surprised you or disappointed you or shocked you in a way?
Well, the movie is very quiet. We were talking about it before.
Yeah.
It's not a movie with a lot of plot movements. It's about a guy dealing with a very particular moment. What I took away most from the experience was sort of his conclusion about how to handle any of these complicated moments is that you do the best you can, you be a good guy, and you have to let yourself off the hook after that. and that's a complicated thing. I heard in my research, I had access to David Lipsky, the reporter, played by Jesse Eisenberg, who's amazing.
Great, terrific job.
Yeah, I had access to his tapes of the interview, and one of the things that I think about all the time was David Foster Wallace said, we have this other us that we live with our entire lives. It's that other voice at night that either tells you you've done a good job or tells you that you're nothing. And he said, my job is to make friends with that voice. And I think about that all the time.
Thanks for watching Actors on Actors. Click to the left to watch our conversation with Benicio del Toro and Will Smith. Click to the right to watch our full conversation with Steve Carell and Rooney Mara. And don't forget to subscribe to Variety's channel.